What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Getting Technical, episode 43.
Damn.
Here with Burke. We're going to talk about championship games. We got the Super Bowl coming up in 2 weeks. It's going to be Chiefs versus the 49ers. So.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like deep down we all should have known that this was going to happen. Chiefs-Niners. But just as like a fan, you wanted to see the Lions pull it off. I mean, it looked great in the first half, but I mean, holy choke job in the second half. I mean, Dan Campbell can't get out of his own way. Just swinging all momentum, a turnover. What was it? The fumble, right?
Jahmyr Gibbs fumble.
Yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs fumble on their side of the field led to points. It was quick too. Like all of a sudden, it was like bam, tie game, and it was just Dan Campbell just leaving 6 points on the board. Just all around terrible second half out of the Lions.
Yeah, it was bad. I mean, we could start with the Lions and the 49ers, but Dan Campbell kind of got bit in the ass for fucking his aggressive play calling. I mean, it worked all season, and I saw people coming from both angles. Some people were like, look, like it worked all year. It's how they got to where they were, whatever you want to fucking say. But it was just the wrong decision. And he made the decision at the end of the first half. They could have went for it, just said, fuck it, let's go. Let's try and get the touchdown, make it 28-7 going into halftime. He did he, in my opinion, made the right call. They kicked the field goal. They got the points. And yeah, I mean,
it was just like why stray away from that then? It was just like I said.
The thing too.
In the second half, like you could have had 6 more points. You just left them on the board.
It's like if you're gonna stick with that mentality, go for it there. Try and make it 28-7.
Yeah.
But to then kind of flip flop and be like, all right, like I want to be aggressive but also conservative at the same time. It's like if he just stuck to it, it's like, all right, you didn't get 7, you got 3, but now you have a chance to get 3, and then you have a chance to get another 3.
Right.
And it's like that could be 9.
Right.
And then instead of fucking having 9, he had 3.
Right. And it's like, well, you'd be putting yourself up by 2 scores in like that third quarter. It was like that first one that he went for, and it was just you get a turnover, and then you're just swinging the momentum right to the Niners. They make a quick score. Jahmyr Gibbs fumble, They punt or whatever, and then it's just bang. They're just driving down the field, scoring with ease. It was like all of a sudden, it was just like things just started clicking for the Niners, and they were just scoring with ease. Yeah. I mean, it didn't even really look like McCaffrey really didn't even have to do too much. I mean, I know he had the 2 touchdowns, and Mitchell had a touchdown, but I mean, Purdy played really well. And it's just second half, that offense just unreal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so they got the ball to start the half. They get the field goal. Then they make a stop, go down the field. They have that crazy catch by Ayuk where it bounces off the Lions' helmet, gets it at the 1. McCaffrey runs it in.
Yeah.
And then the next play, Jahmyr Gibbs fumbles, and Purdy has that long run, and then McCaffrey was it McCaffrey who punched in, or was it I think it threw it to Ayuk? One of the 2 plays happened. Like they had Ayuk had a touchdown, and McCaffrey had another rushing touchdown. I don't know the order of how it happened, but those were the 2 touchdowns, and then all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, they scored 17 points in
probably
8 minutes?
Probably like less than 10 game minutes, and it was just a blink of an eye, and then you get down to the end of the game, and we were discussing this right before, just bad clock management. You have a chance to potentially get a stop after putting yourself within 1 score. And then, Greg Olsen was going through it, and before all the plays were happening, he was like, you can't even run the ball here because you'll have to waste the timeout if you don't punch it in. And then the next play, they run the ball, call a timeout. You don't get the onside kick, which nobody does, because you have to get the onside kick now because you don't have the timeouts to spare. And it was just, for a guy like I was saying, for a guy like Ben Johnson, who's going to be a head coach next year, that's end of the game management and time clock management that you really need as a head coach, because he made if he's not calling plays or whatever, that's his job. He's in charge of the clock management towards the end of the game and stuff like that, and the end of the half, where it's that was crucial for them, very crucial.
Yeah, and also the crazy thing is it's like for me watching the game, I knew that they couldn't take the timeouts, but at the same time, I didn't even think of kick the field goal, keep your 3 timeouts if you can't get the passing touchdown. But it's like, I'm not an NFL coach. If you're an NFL coach, you immediately have to think of that.
Yeah,
it's like the mind shift is like.
Well, it's like
no
yeah,
shit,
like
someone
you're,
like me didn't fucking think about it, but
right.
you're supposed to be
right.
one of the best coaches in all the world at football, and you. It seems basic when you think about it now. It's like for me, it's like all right, whatever. It went over my head. I talk about sports to a podcast with 30 listeners. Like I'm not the coach of the Detroit fucking Lions. Like
I mean,
that's just crazy.
That's what like really good, better coaches do is like you think of all the scenarios and then you kind of weigh the odds, or it's like, all right, we kicked the field goal here, and then what are we gonna do? We get stopped here. What's the next game plan? We score a touchdown. What's the game plan? You got to have, and that's the thing where communication between all your coaches really matters, because now you need to talk with your coordinators and your assistants and be like, hey, like, everybody needs to come together and be like, all right, like if this happens, what should we do? If this happens, what should we do? And that's another thing where I said it either last week or a couple weeks ago when next year for the Lions, Dan Campbell said it's going to be a really tough time, getting back there. A big thing is that he's going to lose his OC and his DC, and those are, we're saying that Dan Campbell's not an X's and O's kind of guy. He's going to need to fill those two spots with X's and O's kind of guys, because he's clearly, the heart on the sleeve, just coaching with emotion kind of guy. It may be a rough road. I think they have the easier road than the Ravens, who got eliminated, but
they definitely have an easier road than the Ravens. I mean, if we were talking about this before the pod, but I mean the Ravens, they're gonna have to go through Mahomes again, Josh Allen, healthy Aaron Rodgers, healthy Joe Burrow. I can't think of everyone else on the top of my head, but there's at least one more team that could. C.J. Stroud.
C.J. Stroud, yeah.
Think of him.
And I mean,
that's tough.
I mean, honestly, if they're like teams like the Raiders can get like a piece or two, like a QB or a piece or two, they were an 8-win team, they could bump themselves up to a 10-win team. There's some surprise teams. Miami's always, Miami's still good.
Yeah,
they're
even talk about Miami.
Yeah, I mean, Miami's always going to be good.
It's going to be tough.
Jacksonville gets a couple pieces. They could be a good. Indianapolis, the AFC South is a solid division.
Oh yeah, Anthony Richardson will be
back
healthy.
I mean,
so
I don't know.
They won 9 games without him. So
because Gardner Minshew is so much better.
Yeah, Minshew, I've always liked Minshew, but it's definitely easy for the Lions. But we all say that, and it's like if you look at sports like historically, it's like a lot of teams. If you go to basketball, like that OKC Thunder team that had like Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, they never made it back. The Jets went back-to-back with Mark Sanchez in his first 2 years. They went to the AFC Championship game both years. They never went fucking back.
Haven't made a playoffs.
Haven't made the playoffs since. Like, it's hard, and when you have the chance, like, you really have to take advantage of it. Because in any sport, we always look at it and we're like, like they have a window,
Right.
And then most of the time, like, these teams don't end up winning the title because it's so hard and everything has to line up perfectly for you to win it.
Well, that's why it's always like kind of mind-boggling when you think about stuff like that. How like, all right, like the Lions are going to struggle to get back next year. The Ravens are going to possibly struggle to get back next year. But why do the teams like the Chiefs the Patriots just consistently make it back? When Peyton Manning was around, just consistently, team like what is the formula? Teams like the Yankees and the Los Angeles Lakers of the world, the Boston Celtics of the world, the Warriors, like how come there's only like 1 or 2 teams that always just kind of have that formula or just that roster where it's just like we were saying the Chiefs, you were saying last week how the Chiefs were getting written off, saying like, oh, like nobody expected the Chiefs to be back here because they're losing all this talent, they're not sure what's going on, with all the skills guys and whatnot. The defense was kind of a question mark last year. I mean, the defense was better than their offense this year, and the skill guys were doing enough to get them obviously to the Super Bowl. Rashee Rice kind of
he stepped up.
Yeah,
Kelce came back from the dead.
Right. I mean, Isaiah Pacheco's potentially a top 7 running back, top 5 running back, and Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs is just unstoppable.
It's just I think I can't speak on it for the other sports, but like with football, it's just like when you compare like the Mahomes and like it's Mahomes and Reed, and then it's like Brady and Belichick. It's like it's that elite coach and that elite quarterback that just. But also, it's like there is just luck. There's a luck aspect to it. Like if you look at the past 2 weeks, obviously, the Chiefs have these guys that are gonna make these huge plays. The defense stepped up. The coaching was great, but they still caught breaks both times. I mean, Tyler Bass missed a 48-yard field goal. He's usually good from there. Right. He's a good kicker. Then you have Zay Flowers having a great game. He fumbles into the end zone, which we talked about that last week. And Matthew Berry actually tweeted it. He was like, another huge impact from like one of the dumbest rules in football. But
we talked about
we have the Lamar interception. Like the defense can't get the stop on 3rd and 9. Like MVS comes up with the catch.
I know. And honestly, that Lamar interception, listen. He threw it into triple coverage, but they're showing that replay and
he put his hand up like he was open.
Oh yeah, that was just ridiculous. He was in double coverage at that point, throwing up his hand. But they're talking with their rules expert, their referee expert, and he's just like, oh, the interception was made before he got touched, and this guy is on the ground. Isaiah Likely is halfway to the ground or on the ground before the interception is made. A blatant pass interference that, just doesn't get called. And I don't care that he threw it into triple coverage. That doesn't negate the fact that there was just a blatant penalty.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. It's just that caused the turnover. And, Rex Ryan hit it on the nose this morning. What was that game plan? I mean, you're the best rushing team or you call the most runs in the NFL. You run the ball more than any team in the NFL, and then your running back gets 3 carries. Lamar runs only 8 times. That was a big thing. It was Lamar a lot of the time was, he had so much time in the pocket, and he would look to number 1, not open, to number 2, not open, to number 3, not open, and then just continue to hold the ball. Run.
Exactly.
Go.
Yeah. And
what are you doing?
And that's what got him there because when we talked about it last week, I thought he was gonna just go crazy and just say fuck it, I'm just gonna run, because that's what he does best. And there were so many opportunities where he wasn't gonna get 20 yards, but he could have gotten 7-8 yards.
Right. Look,
at least 5 times.
Listen,
that he did not take off, and he just incompleted the pass. And it's
if you
just go with what you're good at.
All you need is 3.5 yards per play, and that's a first down. Like you said, you don't need 20 yards. If you're scrambling as a QB, you don't need 20 yards. You need 4. You do that freaking 3 times, and you got a first down. Yeah, it just made no sense. I was saying this. I said it to Sam. I was like, I wonder if there was in the back of his head, he wanted to sit there and throw the ball because he wanted to prove to all these people wrong. He was saying oh, he's not quarterbacky enough, or it's just dude, who gives a shit with it? You're not quarterbacky enough. Who cares? You're playing for a chance at the Super Bowl. You got to do what you're best at, and you're the best dual threat quarterback in the league. And then you're just limiting yourself to just sitting in the pocket when clearly your wide receiver core is just not cutting it for you guys. Zay Flowers aside, I mean, Odell Beckham can't get open. Rashad Bateman can't get open. Nelson Aguilar, bum. I mean, he needed to run the ball, and they needed to run the ball with Gus Edwards and Justice Hillmore, and I don't know what happened.
Even the dump offs, they weren't really going. Justice Hill, he's a great pass catcher. He's great once he gets the ball. His yards after the catch is great. I think he had one big play maybe. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, another thing, I was listening to the Bill Simmons podcast, and one of the people who works on his network she's a big Ravens fan. She was talking to him about how the Ravens can't play from behind. The last game they played from behind was 2022 or something like that.
Oh, they haven't played behind all year?
No, they have not played from behind with Lamar, at least in the past 2 years they haven't done it, and
it's kind of crazy.
It's just weird to me. I understand that, but at the same time, I think that comes down to coaching and leadership. It's just stick to your game plan. They were down by 10-7 for most of the game. It's you don't need to hit.
Wasn't anything astronomical.
It wasn't the 49ers, and even the 49ers they had done it last week for kind of the first time, but they were down by a lot. But and when you just play your game, look what happens. They came back in 10 minutes from down 17 points.
Especially a big thing. The Ravens have a solid defense, and you got to put the pressure on Pat Mahomes. You saw it. You saw it with the Jets, and granted they didn't win, but you put the pressure on the guy, and it's any QB in the world. When he's getting pressured, guys are in his face. He's consistently having to improvise and do these off-schedule plays. Pat Mahomes is probably the best guy and to ever do it with all schedule stuff, but he's more likely than not to make a mistake when he's got constant pressure, having to leave the pocket, scrambling around, things are starting to panic and go a little haywire. He was another one. He just sat in the pocket when he wanted to run. He had big scrambles. I mean, Pat Mahomes had a few big scrambles. It's just like he does that too. It's just like, why are you just watching Pat Mahomes do what you do best?
Yeah.
You know.
And on top of that,
made no sense.
If we go to the 49ers game and quick, Purdy, he ran the ball for 50 yards.
Yeah.
He took what the defense gave him every time that he didn't have anything. They left the middle of the field wide open, and he was able to make huge plays that helped them come back and help them hold on.
And that's that new generation of quarterback where it's like you can't just sit in the pocket all day. They want you to be a good athlete because they want plays like that where they start to everything's about spreading the field because it leaves that lane up the middle and between the tackles for the QB to go and scramble whenever they really need it. I don't know. I mean, I think the Chiefs really outcoached them. I don't really they didn't really play like a crazy game. I mean, obviously Kelce had a crazy game.
First half, they didn't even score in the second half.
Yeah, I think that was just lack of coaching, which is weird coming from a Harbaugh. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we're back, but yeah, you're right. Pacheco ran the ball 14 times in the first half.
Yeah, and he was running like crazy. I feel like they were running so well. I guess things started changing in the second half. I mean, just. A bad beat for the Lions, and
brutal.
just a
brutal day to be just a Lions fan, man.
I know.
To come so far,
and
and even for Jared Goff, because Reynolds, who we talked about highly on this podcast, he had two huge drops.
They had a few huge drops. It's just, and he's a free agent next year, but I mean he was a guy I was saying. I was like, I wouldn't mind the Jets picking him up. And I was like, geez, I mean, I can't have another Allen Lazard going out here just straight brick hands.
Yeah, I mean, he probably lost himself a little bit of money in that game.
Yeah.
Because when you can't make the plays on the biggest stage,
right, that's the last
value
thing.
Goes down.
Right. Especially that's like the last thing, thought and everybody said. It was just like, when things mattered the most, he didn't come up.
Yeah. But also on top of that, they weren't difficult catches. Like, the second one especially was an easy ball. Like, Goff, I mean, and we could talk about Goff for a little bit because honestly, I think he played a pretty good game. He's not going to get any credit for it, but he hit these guys. They had a lot of drops where he threw great balls. Then he can't do anything about the play. He can't do anything about the drops. He can't do anything about the play calling. But I thought he played a pretty good game. I thought they outside, and I thought the run game was amazing outside of that, Gibbs fumble. Greg Olsen said on the cast that he thinks that Gibbs went to the left when he was supposed to go to the right, and that's part of the reason why he kind of bobbled the handoff.
Maybe.
And then it just kind of everything just. Yeah.
I mean, especially like that first that end around for Jameson Williams too. That really started the game off for them. It was just, they came so hot out the gate. I mean, they had 24 points in the first half. They look like they were just in total. I mean, they were in total control. It's not that they look like they were in total control. And then they come out in the second half just flat. They're not keeping their foot on the pedal. A turnover, going for it on fourth down in their own territory. Just bad play in the second half. And like you said, Goff was fine. Goff was fine. Second half defense, obviously, it's strugglesome when your team is just. Going for it on fourth down, and it's, once again, they were on the field all game long because they couldn't put any drives together. There was no momentum going their way. They just handed all the momentum to the 49ers, and they just ran with it quick. And before you know it, it was 24-24, and before you know it, it was 31-24, and then it was 34-24, and just. Yeah, there was nothing that was really going to change the end result of that game. I think even if the Lions score that touchdown, or what do I say? They don't waste that timeout or whatever. I don't think they'd be able to come back and score again. I don't think they were making a stop and then scoring again on that.
It was probably not going to happen.
No.
But Which loss do you think was like more heartbreaking? Because I
think the Lions. I think it's the Lions.
Yeah, I think the only argument for the Ravens is one, like this was kind of this was their season. Like their defense was incredible. Lamar was playing at an insanely high level, and like we said, like the AFC, like it's a gauntlet. The Lions, I feel like, have a better chance of getting back there.
Yeah, I mean that they're
at least in the short term.
But I mean, their path through the division is much easier. I think. I mean, the Bears are kind of probably hitting the reset and the rebuild. The Vikings could potentially be hitting the reset because if they don't sign Kirk Cousins, God only knows what's going to happen next. It's if they don't sign Cousins, like that's almost like a reset.
Oh, then they might trade Jefferson or
and then Jefferson really said he was like, if they don't bring back Cousins, he's like, I want no part of this team. He doesn't want to be in a rebuild at all.
Yeah.
And then you have Green Bay is really good, but I mean, that's their only opposition in that division. It's like you're talking about two other teams in that division where it's just might just be laying up and just folding, going belly up and folding.
Yeah, that's true. But to me, I think of it more of like your path in the playoffs. Like obviously, like if they're able to win that division, have a good regular season, they can get home field again. But going through some of those teams, beating the 49ers is always going to be hard. I think Brock Purdy's only going to get better.
Yeah.
I think
it's his second year. He goes from NFC Championship to Super Bowl.
And he would probably be in back-to-back Super Bowls if it wasn't for him getting hurt.
Yeah, he doesn't get hurt, and they have to sit there and put Christian McCaffrey in the game. It was just like, they'd probably be back-to-back Super Bowls.
Yeah.
You're probably right.
Let's talk the Super Bowl matchup quick because so we have the Chiefs and the Niners.
Right.
And before we even start talking about it, I don't know if you saw this anywhere, but Peter Schrager, he's an NFL reporter, I believe, for Fox. He's picked the past 5 Super Bowl winners.
I did see that.
I have the tweet right here.
In September, right?
On September 7th, he picked 30 minutes before Week 1 kickoff, he tweeted the Chiefs over the 49ers. If he's correct this year, that'll be 6 straight years picking the correct Super Bowl.
So this
Super
guy
Bowl champion, and the fact that he's on top of it, picking the correct matchup.
So he obviously just has the script. I mean, that's just blatant. The fix is in. They're just giving it to this guy.
I mean, it's pretty crazy.
6 straight years of predicting the correct Super Bowl.
Well, if the Chiefs win, it'll be 6 years.
But I mean, like you're saying, even predicting, even being 5 straight years, and then on the 6th year, you have the correct matchup.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
But day after the championship game,
Chiefs are currently the favorite, right?
No. The Niners
are the favorite. The Niners are the favorite?
Are -1.5 spread, and the money line is -126.
How do they decide who's home? Like, I see, like, the Chiefs are home. Is it off the Pro Bowl? Like, the previous year's Pro Bowl? Does that decide anything? Or
I don't know. That's a good question.
Or is there some sort of record? Or because I don't think the Chiefs have a better record than the Niners. Right?
No, I actually have no idea. That's a good question.
Chiefs are 11-6. The Niners were 12-5. They're like, why are the Chiefs home? Oh, is it based off last year's Super Bowl? Oh, because like whoever won the last year's Super Bowl? I don't know.
There's so much to bet though, but yeah, I mean, coming out, the Chiefs are +1.5, +108. To me, the first thing betting wise that sticks out is a little 2-leg parlay, Chiefs money line, and then taking Patty Mahomes MVP. I think if you're gonna bet this game and you're gonna pick a team to win, I think you got to parlay it with the quarterback because. I was talking about this before with
they just alternate every year. That's whack.
That's weird, but also it's in Vegas. Like there's really no home team. But
I mean,
what are the odds that the only other player I see that could possibly win the MVP outside of Purdy or Mahomes is McCaffrey? But even then, it's like McCaffrey would probably have to have like 200 all-purpose yards, multiple touchdowns. Like, this award, for the most part, is just always given to the quarterback.
I mean, it's like we touched on this previously, where it's if it's not going to the quarterback, it's because some guy's having like you said, a ridiculous game
or like a game-saving play. Like
if
a defender gets a pick six,
like
wins the game.
When Aaron Donald got it, like he had an unreal game. I mean, there's ways for other positions to get it, but like you're saying, they have to really outshine. they gave it to Von Miller that year because fucking Peyton Manning was just washed up.
I mean, he was playing. His arm was falling off.
Yeah, he was just terrible. But yeah, I totally agree. It's probably only really. I mean, maybe Kelce. If Kelce. If Kelce
have 2 touchdowns yesterday or 1?
I think he just had 1. But if he comes out and has, a 10 plus catches, over 150 yards, a touchdown, there's a chance. I mean, but if it's a low scoring game,
if he gets like the game winning, amazing one-handed catch, something like that, or makes a crazy play,
I don't think it has to be like that all crazy. But I mean,
they're gonna give it to Mahomes.
But I mean, you're saying like if Pat Mahomes has 200 yards, 1 touchdown, and it's to Kelce, and Kelce has like 130 of those yards, I mean, in like 10 catches, like it should go to fucking Travis Kelce. Yeah. Same thing with McCaffrey. If he has, 100 rushing yards, 50 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns, which is a typical Sunday for Christian McCaffrey, and Brock Purdy only has 200 yards and a touchdown, give it to McCaffrey. But I know what you're saying. It's just like the hype is always around the QB.
Always is.
But I mean, I would throw a little money on, McCaffrey Super Bowl MVP just because.
I'm trying to find the lines on FanDuel.
I saw one guy on Twitter put $5 to win I want to say it was like $5,000 for Sam Darnold Super Bowl MVP. I mean, there's a nice little bet for you.
I mean, I guess it could happen. If something happens.
If Purdy gets hurt, Sam Darnold can step right in and have a fucking sick game. I don't even think he has to have a sick game. I think he just has to win the game at that point.
I can't find the MVP odds, but you could bet right now. Will there be overtime? Yes, for plus 1120. But what are your thoughts initially? For me right now, I think the 49ers are the better team. I want the 49ers to win, but it's hard to root against Patrick Mahomes, especially with the way the Chiefs defense is playing right now.
I mean, I'm on your page right there. Like, I would rather the Niners win. I like the Brock Purdy story. I don't know. People keep shitting on him for whatever reason, but I mean, the Mr. Irrelevant to be now Super Bowl winner, potential Super Bowl MVP after, like you said, last year, made it to the NFC Championship, came out on the scene out of nowhere, wasn't even the starter.
Yeah.
He was the third stringer, right, to start the year? Because Trey Lance was the backup. Trey Lance was the backup, and he went down. Garoppolo went down. Trey Lance went down, and then he steps in. They're like, who is this guy? Some quarterback from fucking Iowa State.
Mr. Irrelevant.
And then leads them to the NFC Championship. This year, brings them to the Super Bowl. And it's just like
it's crazy, really.
And then people are like, "Oh, this guy's I don't know about this guy yet." I'm like, I don't know what you guys are fucking seeing, but yeah, I mean, the offense is insane, but I mean, he's still playing really fucking well. I would like to see them win, but Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl again.
It's like, is this his 6th year starting Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, he's been in the AFC Championship every year, and this will be his 3rd Super Bowl appearance.
3rd Super Bowl.
4th.
Wait, 4th.
4th Super Bowl appearance.
That's crazy. 4 Super Bowls in 6 years. It's fucking Brady-esque. That's the only thing you could compare it to. Really.
It is Brady-esque. And I mean, if he continues to lose these Super Bowls, I mean, Brady did lose 3 of them.
Brady lost 3.
But Brady went 3-0 before he went, or did he go? Yeah, he went 3-0, and then lost to the Giants.
Did he lose to them 2 years in a row?
He lost to them
twice in a row. 2 appearances in a row.
I don't know.
It's so hard to say. Like, it's hard to remember all this shit. But
I know.
It's like this. Just being in the same conversation at 28 as Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, like Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes they're just like inevitable at this point. It feels like, and it's like the passing of the torch kind of happened. Like, Brady actually beats Mahomes in his first Super Bowl.
Brady is 2-0 against him in the playoffs.
Yeah, Brady beats him in the Super Bowl. Then Mahomes comes back. I believe the next year they won. And then ever since then, Brady kind of... Yeah,
Brady retires, and now it's Pat Mahomes just taking over, like you said. And, I mean, like, they're just an unstoppable playoff team. No matter what happens, it just always seems like they just find a way to win. Somehow, some way. Like you said, like, they weren't anything crazy on offense yesterday. No, but they just were significantly better than the Ravens. They weren't even dominating that game. Weren't like Pat Mahomes wasn't throwing for 300 yards. It was a lot of Travis Kelce on offense and Pacheco in the first half. But, it was really just bad play by the Ravens, bad game plan by the Ravens, and just good defense by the Chiefs. So, I mean, that could be the case this week again.
Yeah. It's going to come down to, like, do we think the talent of San Francisco all around is good enough to beat Patrick Mahomes? And
I think
outside of, like, the skill position players, like, and Kelce's the advantage over Kittle still probably. It's closer than it was in the past.
Absolutely.
But the defenses are, like, the Chiefs' defense is arguably just as good as the 49ers, if not better.
I mean, I just like their pass rushing aspect, I think, is a little bit better. Yeah. I mean, but the run defense of the Chiefs is really, really good. I think that had a factor of why the Ravens maybe tried straying away from the run as much, because they're just like getting past Chris Jones up the middle is just it's a tall task. But I mean, now you're talking about the man who is just significantly better at football than everybody else in Christian McCaffrey. So, I mean, Kyle Shanahan does not stray away from his game plan, which I think is a big thing. And he's said it where it's they ask him, it's just like, oh, like when you see the box is overloaded, they have 7, 8 guys in the box. Like he's like, I tell Brock, he was like, do not check out of these. He's like, because come playoff time, people are going to stuff the box against Christian McCaffrey. He's like, and I still want to run the ball down their throats.
Yeah,
it's like, so I want He's like, it's crazy to say. He's like, in the regular season, they're practicing their playoff game plan. He's just like, I know people are going to try and stuff the box and force us to have Brock throw the ball. He's like, but I don't want that to be the case. He's like, I want them to know that even if you stuff the box and load the box up against us, we are going to continue to run this football and trust Christian McCaffrey to be the best player on the field at all times.
Yeah, and even yesterday, McCaffrey, it was a down game for him, and he still ended up with 20 rushes for 90 yards and
2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns. He could have had 3. He took himself out because he took a nasty fall that I honestly was a little bit right on his neck at the end.
Bro, Elijah Mitchell, fucking snake, just slithering in there.
And then
you knew that they were fucking scoring on that next play.
Yeah,
with
of course.
You just knew it.
But then on top of that, he was during the first half. He was leading the team in receiving yards. He had like 40 yards. So even a down game for McCaffrey, he gets him that game-winning run, 25 yards, gets him right down there. So
he's just
even like, I mean, they could have done the tush push with Brock Purdy and gotten. And it didn't really matter what they did; they were going to score. And
they should just run the tush push with McCaffrey every play. See what that does.
Or like George Kittle.
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder if teams are going to start doing that. Maybe it's just like, well, why risk the QB injury? Because like what's going to happen. It's not like there's no surprise as to what's happening. So it's like, why put an unathletic guy when I can just put Christian McCaffrey back there, George Kittle?
But also like the benefit of like the reason why it's so successful with Hurts and like Josh Allen is because they're so big.
Yeah,
like obviously all these NFL quarterbacks
just significantly
are big guys,
stronger.
But it's like, take a guy like George Kittle, take a guy like Travis Kelce, just put him in there. Like they're huge.
I'm thinking more or less just like, why would I have a giant dog pile on top of my star QB?
Well, so then would you switch it and be like, let's bring Jordan Mason in for the 49ers, just throw him in there, just put McCaffrey and like Juszczyk behind him and just
honestly fucking give it a Kyle Juszczyk. Yeah. I mean, could you imagine just Kyle or even, I mean, the Ravens are obviously out, but like the guy Picard, he's 300 fucking pounds. I mean, it's just sitting there just being like, just push that guy right into the fucking defensive tackle.
Yeah, I wonder if that ends up becoming like kind of more of a thing, like you're saying. Like,
yeah, but I mean, they'll probably end up banning that play because NFL's gay.
That's bullshit. But all right, let's I gotta reset this.
Yeah.
Obviously, like outside of that, like Taylor Swift will be at the game.
Yeah,
this is gonna be the most viewed Super Bowl
by far.
It's not even gonna be close.
I mean, they were showing because she plays in like Tokyo, like the night before or whatever. But Tokyo is so far like ahead of us time wise that she has so much time in between, like to fly all the way back, and she's going to be gaining so much time as she flies back. Like she'll be playing like whatever the day is. What is it, like the so the Super Bowl is on like the 11th, and her performance is technically on the 11th or like the 10th into the 11th.
Yeah.
But she'll be able to fly back the 20-hour flight or whatever it is, plus gaining all that time that she'll land like Sunday morning, like Vegas time.
Oh, so she'll have plenty of time.
Yeah, like she'll have plenty of time.
And, she's gonna be flying on like the nicest fucking private jet.
Yeah, so she'll be sleeping. Yeah, she'll be sleeping the whole time. She'll be well rested.
But that's gonna be a funny aspect because didn't she turn down doing the Super Bowl halftime show? That's what I think. I
could have yeah, but I think that was even like pre-dating or pre-Kelce though, that she turned down the halftime show.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been insane though if she was doing the halftime show. Like she just like runs down from her press box and then just performs and then runs back up there.
Yeah. But I mean, while we're talking about Taylor Swift, one more thing I saw today is that this is including
it's somehow generated.
This is including print, digital, radio, TV highlights, and social media since the first game she attended in September. The equivalent brand value Taylor Swift has generated for the NFL and the Chiefs is $331.5 million.
I mean, she's the biggest star on the planet right now, and like pop star on the planet, and she's attending all these football games. So that right there is just going to draw so much extra viewership, just because you're gonna have all these girls and all these Swifties that are just being like, I just want to see 10 seconds of Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't give a fuck about the game. I don't care what happens. I just want to see Taylor Swift.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before. As much as like to true football fans, it can be frustrating. It's like, oh, like why we want to watch football. We don't give a shit about Taylor Swift. Like her celebrating.
That's just money in their pockets.
This is why like they're the biggest in at least North America. Like they're the biggest sports league in the world. I mean, in North America. Because they're smart and they lean into this shit. If it was the MLB, they wouldn't. They'd be like, "Oh, Taylor Swift's at the game." They'd take a picture, post on Instagram, wouldn't pan to her once. No one would know unless you followed the MLB on Instagram.
Look at the list of people that Derek Jeter has dated in his lifetime, like the supermodels, the actresses, and it's just like, does anybody give a fuck?
No one cares.
No one cares.
But Travis Kelce's dating Taylor Swift.
Travis Kelce's dating Taylor Swift. Even if this is some gigantic publicity stunt, it's the smartest one in fucking history. It's just like you said, it's generated $330 million of revenue.
And that's, to be honest, that's probably conservative.
That's an insane number.
So much money. Since September.
Yeah.
Like
that's an insane.
This is just her sitting in a booth at games.
Yeah.
She's not on the field singing the anthem. No,
she's just cheering on Travis Kelce. That's it.
In the booth,
just there cheering him on.
Travis Kelce, Brittany Mahomes, and they're just cheering and dancing.
Fucking Brittany Mahomes, a loser.
I saw a thing. It was like Brittany Mahomes, Jackson Mahomes, and Taylor Swift celebrating. It's like that is just a nightmare blunt rotation.
Those blunt rotation.
You seen that online? People like dream blunt rotation if it's like three like clowns like hanging out together. Like
oh my god, the three of them just imagine just
nightmare blunt rotation.
God, Brittany Mahomes sucks. She's the worst.
You want to get into quarterbacks right now? Do you have yours? Or are you just gonna go off the top?
Well, what you're just listing AFC top so 5 AFC
I was just
QBs?
Thinking like, with all this, what's going on right now, I think it's a good time to do it because one, Purdy, he's proven people that he's a legit starting quarterback. Not really I don't think he's a game manager. I think he's better than that.
Right.
And obviously, if we're talking AFC, Mahomes is one. He would have been one if they lost. He's undisputed number one. So everyone else on these lists is gone. So I think it's fair to talk about. So I was thinking we just read them off. Just list them off, and then we'll talk about it.
Right.
And then I can clip it, do whatever. We get people's what they think, things like that. So I'll start first. So my top 5 AFC quarterbacks, I got Aaron Rodgers at 5, Lamar Jackson at 4, Joe Burrow at 3, Josh Allen at 2, and, of course, Patrick Mahomes at 1. I dropped Lamar below Burrow just because maybe it's just recency bias, and yesterday left a bad taste in my mouth. No. But but I don't know, just like when we've seen Joe Burrow healthy, even with these terrible offensive lines, granted he has great weapons, unlike Lamar, AFC Championship game, Super Bowl, he's done it every time he's been fully healthy.
Right.
And I think at this point, Lamar's been fantastic in the regular season, but there's question marks about him in the playoffs now. This was his chance, obviously. They had the bye, but his MVP year, they got destroyed by the Titans. They got smoked by the Bills. Either last year or the year before that. So the year before that, and then last year he was hurt, and they played with who was their backup again?
Huntley,
and they lost to the Bengals. But yeah, I put Rodgers over Herbert because Herbert hasn't done anything.
Yeah, Herbert's got a lot. Yeah.
They blew the playoff game last year. And Rodgers is Rodgers, and I think next year he's going to be healthy. I think the Jets are going to bolster that line, and I think he's gonna have a vintage Rodgers year. It doesn't mean I think they're going to win the Super Bowl, but I think he'll be good. At least much better than what the Jets have been dealing with.
Right. I mean, I'm going to have, my list is going to have all the same guys. I'm just going to kind of the order is going to be a tad different. Yeah. Obviously Mahomes, Allen 1, 2, Mahomes 1, Allen 2, but I'm going to throw Aaron Rodgers in at my number 3 spot.
Oh my gosh.
Just, you could call it bias as a Jets fan, but you're still talking about a guy who's 2 years removed from the MVP. And now that we got past that whole debacle of him fucking potentially coming back at the end of the season, like he's going to have the full time to recover. I think he's going to come back, like you said, very healthy and really can come out of the gate pretty hot. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to go Burrow 4, Lamar 5. Honorable mentions would be C.J. Stroud 6, Tua at 7, stuff like that. You
put Tua over Herbert?
I would put Tua over Herbert, just for like you said, this year alone. It's not like Herbert doesn't have talent.
He's got
he's got Keenan Allen. Mike Williams is always hurt, but Austin Eckler around him. The offensive line's a little shaky, but he has the tools. Their defense was horrendous, but he has the tools and stuff to kind of make guys better. But I think Tua just had a really, really phenomenal year. I just don't think you could just kind of push it aside.
Yeah.
They were winning. He was playing well. Most passing yards in the league. It's just he's every year just progressed. I'm not saying Herbert hasn't, but he's progressed and the team is just staying consistent. Yeah. So that's why I would just put him ahead.
And you can't even use the play. He didn't have a great playoff game against the Chiefs, but
Josh
Allen lost to the Chiefs. Lamar Jackson just lost to the Chiefs, and he didn't look good.
But
so
you know what?
Can't make that
at least he's playing in the playoffs, unlike fucking Justin Herbert.
Oh yeah. No, I was just saying if people wanted to rebuttal and they were like, well, you could say Tua sucked in the playoffs, stuff like that after he had this great year, but the truth is, he lost to the team that is in the Super Bowl now. It's not like he lost to, the Chiefs and then got blown out by,
Right.
I don't know what I'm even going. But
I'm gonna put in some shock factor in my NFC pick.
Yeah, the NFC is way weirder. I think it's obviously safe to say most of the best quarterbacks in the league are in the AFC, which is why what we were saying before, it's a lot harder to get to the Super Bowl in the AFC than the NFC. But my top 5 quarterbacks in the NFC, I got Purdy at 5. It was a toss-up between him and Jordan Love. I got Jared Goff at 4, Jalen Hurts at 3, Matt Stafford 2, and I put Dak at 1.
Wow.
Wow,
Matt Stafford breaching that, huh?
I just think, to me, it's I understand people oh, Dak's really not that good. I'm not even saying Dak's necessarily... I don't think Dak's a top 5 quarterback. I think the top 5 quarterbacks are in the AFC. But when I look at it and I'm like, Stafford, I like Stafford. Probably, I might like Stafford a little bit more than Dak, but going forward, I would rather have Dak. He's younger. Jalen Hurts, really down year. I still believe in Jalen Hurts. I think he could easily retake that 1 spot in the NFC next year. Goff, I think he deserved it after the year he had. And Purdy, he's in the Super Bowl. And honestly, he made the plays himself outside of Christian McCaffrey to get them there. I had Jordan Love, honorable mention. I think, who was the other guy who I'm thinking of? Oh, I'm blanking.
Baker?
Not Baker. There's one more guy who was in the mix. I'm forgetting his name.
I'm
trying to think.
Not Sam Howell.
Oh, God, no.
I was going to say, I'm looking at the stats right now. It's really Goff, Prescott, Purdy, Love, Stafford.
Am I missing? Maybe I'm not missing one.
I don't think you are.
Jordan Love. I think maybe I forgot Purdy before. I had Jordan Love at 5, and then I switched them.
Yeah. Geno?
Geno probably 7.
No.
In the NFC?
Stop.
Who else is in the NFC?
Fucking anybody else. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. I'm taking Baker over him. I would
probably take Baker.
I'm taking Derek Carr over him. I'm taking Kirk Cousins over him. I'm taking Sam Howell over him.
I wouldn't take.
I'm taking Justin Fields over him.
I wouldn't take Derek Carr over him. I would take Kirk over him. What about you? What are you thinking?
Well, speaking of Kirk, number 5, Kirk Cousins. Before that, I mean, say what you want.
Before he got hurt, he was an MVP
he
candidate.
was by far the best quarterback, like playing the best quarterback in the league. Like he was balling with an injured Justin Jefferson, might I add. And I think just year after year, this man is just a model of consistency, and he just gets shunned to the side because of the primetime games and stuff like that. But I mean, he is not the problem in these primetime games. It's always like he plays well, and then his team sucks around him, and then people just blame him because they see the record. But I mean, every year it's 4,000 yards, 30 TDs out of this man, and people are like, he's just not it. And I think people are just ridiculous with that. So I'm putting NFC top 5, Kirk Cousins at 5, Goff at 4, Jalen Hurts at 3, Purdy at 2, Dak at 1. Keeping Jalen Hurts out of there at number 6 because
I think you said Hurts at 3.
No, I said Stafford, didn't I?
No.
I said Jalen Hurts. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm keeping Stafford out of my apologies. I'm keeping Stafford out of there just because of age. And I really think just like the emergence of Puka and Kyron Williams really kind of bolstered him. I mean, not to say that like he didn't have a really good season, but I just think right now, if I wanted a guy, I'm going with those 5. I mean, not to say that, you know, Stafford couldn't jump into that mix. You know, it's a very interchangeable list. I think they're all very similar in talent. You know, I think all those guys are really kind of like, it's hard to distinguish. Like, there's no distinguishable guy like a Mahomes and Allen that are just clear cut better than everybody else.
It really is. Like, if you look at it, the AFC, it's like Mahomes. If you're ranking just the quarterbacks in the NFL, Mahomes 1, Allen 2, Burrow, Lamar 3, 4, Rodgers 5. You could argue the top 5, 6, 7 quarterbacks in the NFL are in the AFC right now.
Right. I mean, but even that list alone, like I'm saying, like the top 2 are obviously Allen, Mahomes.
Yeah.
You know, after that, if you want to interchange, you know, if you want to flip flop Burrow and Mahomes, Burrow and Lamar, you want to flip flop Lamar and Rodgers. You know, I have no issues with that. If you want to somehow sneak CJ Stroud in there, I have no problem with that. But I mean, it's the NFC is just so similar talent-wise quarterback. I mean, if obviously everybody's going to disagree with me with the Kirk thing, but
actually, he was the guy that I was thinking of that I couldn't remember.
Oh, Kirk? Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are going to disagree with me with Kirk, and like I said, he's just a model of consistency. 30 TDs every year, 4,000 yards, 65+ completion percentage. He does it every year. But you know, if you want to throw Stafford in there, if you want to throw even Baker after this year, if you want to, like, you could say Baker Mayfield, you know, over some of these guys. I mean, you got to have Hurts, Goff, Purdy, Dak, but that 5th spot can really be interchanged with a lot of guys. But I mean, I just have bias towards Kirk just because I really love Kirk. But
yeah, no, I agree. He's been great every year, and it'll be interesting to wrap things up for just this episode. Like, it'll be interesting to see where he lands next year. I think he likes Minnesota. I think Minnesota will bring him back. Yeah. Might be on a shorter term contract. I mean, but I don't know where else
he was only on like a 4-year contract, right?
Yeah, so they could give him 2-3 years. They might not give him 4. They're not going to give him 4.
I mean, like I said earlier.
Where else is he gonna? Where'd he go though?
I know. It's where would he go? I mean, he can go to Las Vegas.
He could go to Vegas. He's way better than Carr.
Carr's in New Orleans, so.
Oh shit! Sorry.
He's
way better than Jimmy G.
He could go to New Orleans.
He's way better than Derek Carr.
He could come to the Giants.
He could come to the Giants. I don't think they'll do
that. No, they're not going to.
I think they'll run it back with dimes, and if they suck again, they'll draft a QB next year.
Absolutely. But like I said, it's just like if they don't sign Kirk, Justin Jefferson has made it clear that he wants Kirk to be his quarterback. If they don't sign him, he's going to want out of there, and then you're talking about big time reset in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And for a team that these past few years have done really well, have been a very good offense because of the Kirk to Jefferson duo. I mean, now you're talking about belly up, and then just a team that's going to be down the drain that's competing against the Lions, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. I mean, there's a lot of teams that could be really moving their way up depending on the moves that they make. I mean, like I said, the Raiders could be making a push if they really want to. If the Dolphins make a couple key moves on defense and on offense, they could really be making a push. You know, the Jets are getting Aaron Rodgers back. They were a 9-win team or an 8-win team. What were they? Or 7-win? They were
7-10.
7.
But they easily could.
They were a 7-win team.
They could have won 9 games with Zach Wilson. Basically.
They could have won that. Yeah, and you threw Tim Boyle out there for fucking whatever for no reason. And it's just like
he's friends with Rodgers.
Yeah, seriously. There's a handful of teams that could really just make a push, and I think next year there's going to be a lot of flip flopping around with division winners and guys that are teams that are making late playoff pushes and stuff. I think next year is going to be a really fun year to watch.
Yeah, it should be good. But yeah, I mean, we'll wrap this one up, and next week we'll have a real Super Bowl preview.
Yeah,
cool. Good up.